I woke up one morning and she was gone. Not physically, she was standing in the kitchen. But emotionally, mentally, spiritually, she had already left me months ago. I just didn't want to see it. I was 34 years old when my wife told me she couldn't do this anymore. That she loved me, but she wasn't in love with me anymore. That she needed to find herself. That she needed to leave. And I didn't know how to forgive her for choosing herself over us. But then I learned something that changed everything. This is Hearts Mended, where real stories show us that broken bonds can heal, and second chances are never too late. If your spouse has left you, if you've ever felt abandoned by someone you loved, if you're struggling to understand why they chose to leave, subscribe, like this video, and share your story in the comments. Because healing begins when we understand why people leave. This is my story of learning to forgive my wife for leaving me. My wife's name was Emma. We met in college at a party I almost didn't go to. She was standing in the corner, not drinking, not really talking to anyone. She looked like she was somewhere else entirely. I walked over and asked her why she looked so sad. "I'm not sad," she said. "I'm just tired of pretending to have fun." We talked for 3 hours that night. We didn't leave the party until it was basically over. We just sat in that corner and talked about everything. Our dreams, our fears, our families, our hopes for the future. I knew that night that I was going to marry her. We dated for 4 years. We lived together for 2 of those years. Then I proposed on a beach in California. She said yes before I even finished the sentence. We got married 3 years later. It was the most beautiful day of my life. Emma was brilliant. She was a graphic designer, creative and talented. She could see beauty in things that other people missed. She could take a blank canvas and create something that made people feel something. That was her gift. I was more practical. I was an engineer. I worked in construction management. I was good at solving problems, making things work, creating structure. We balanced each other perfectly. Or so I thought. The first few years of marriage were good. Really good. We bought a house. We renovated it together. Emma designed the interior. It was stunning. We had dinner parties. We traveled. We were living the life we had talked about on that first night we met. But somewhere around year 4 or 5, things started to shift. I didn't notice it at first. I was focused on my career. I had been promoted to senior manager. I was working long hours. I was stressed. I was coming home tired. Emma was still working, but she had scaled back. She was doing freelance design work from home. She had more flexibility, but less fulfillment. She would tell me that sometimes, that she felt unfulfilled. "You should take on bigger projects," I would say. "I want to," she would say. "But I also want us to have a life together. And I feel like you're always working." I didn't hear that. I was too focused on my own stuff. We stopped going on dates. We stopped traveling. We fell into a routine: wake up, work, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed. We became roommates instead of partners. Emma would try to initiate conversations about it. She would say things like, "I miss you," or "I feel like we're drifting." I would respond with practical solutions: "Let's schedule date night," or "Let's plan a vacation." But I never addressed the real issue. I wasn't present. I wasn't emotionally available. I was going through the motions of being a husband without actually being one. Emma started spending more time with her friends. She started going to yoga classes. She started taking online courses about things she was interested in. She was building a life outside of our marriage because our marriage wasn't fulfilling her. I thought it was fine. I thought it was healthy for her to have her own interests. What I didn't realize was that she was building an exit strategy. When someone tells you they're unhappy, do you really hear them? Or do you just wait for your turn to speak? It happened on a Tuesday morning. I was getting ready for work. Emma was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. She looked like she hadn't slept. "We need to talk," she said. Those are words every married person dreads. I sat down at the table, and she said the words that changed everything. I can't do this anymore. I can't be in this marriage anymore. I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore. And I need to leave. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. What are you talking about? I asked. Where is this coming from? It's coming from 8 years of me trying to tell you I'm unhappy, she said. Her voice was quiet but firm. It's coming from me feeling like I'm invisible in my own marriage. It's coming from me realizing that I have no idea who I am anymore. So leave for a few weeks, I said. Take some space. Go stay with your sister. Figure things out. I don't need space, she said. I need out. Those words hit me like a physical blow. Emma, we can fix this, I said. We can go to therapy. We can. I've been thinking about this for 2 years, she said. I've been trying to fix this for 8 years. I'm tired of trying. I'm tired of waiting for you to show up. I'm done. I realized then that this wasn't a sudden decision. This was a decision that had been building for years. This was the culmination of years of me not showing up, not being present, not valuing her. When will you come back? I asked, still not understanding. I don't think I'm coming back, she said. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't leaving for a vacation or to think things through. She was leaving. She was leaving me. I spent the next hour trying to convince her to stay. I promised things would change. I promised I would be better. I promised I would be more present. I promised I would go to therapy. I promised anything and everything. But she had already made her decision. She had already grieved our marriage. She had already moved on. By that evening, she had packed a suitcase. By the next morning, she had moved into an apartment with one of her friends. By the end of the week, her lawyer contacted my lawyer. We were getting a divorce. The worst part wasn't the divorce proceedings. The worst part was the silence. The empty house. The realization that I had driven away the woman I loved because I had taken her for granted. I had taken her for granted. Do you have to lose someone to realize how much they meant to you? The divorce was finalized 14 months later. 14 months of mediation, of lawyers, of dividing up the things we had built together. 14 months of going to an empty house and realizing that I had wasted years of my life not appreciating the person I was lucky enough to be married to. I fell apart after the divorce was finalized. I threw myself into work. I started working 70-hour weeks. I was trying to fill the empty space inside me with achievement and distraction. But it didn't work. I started drinking. Not alcoholically, but regularly. Every night I would come home to the empty house and have a whiskey. Then another. Then another. I lost weight. I wasn't eating properly. I was just working and drinking and sleeping, and then doing it all over again. My colleagues started noticing. My manager called me into his office and asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was fine. My friends tried to reach out. I pushed them away. I didn't want their pity. I didn't want their advice. I didn't want anyone. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I hit rock bottom. I came home from work, poured myself a whiskey, and sat on the couch. And I realized I had built this beautiful life with Emma, and I had destroyed it through negligence and selfishness. And she had moved on. She was living her life. She was happy. And I was alone in a house full of memories of what I had lost. That's when I made a decision. I needed help. I called my doctor and asked for a referral to a therapist. I started therapy the following week. My therapist, Dr. Richardson, was a woman in her 60s who didn't sugarcoat anything. In our first session, I told her everything. How Emma had left, how I had pushed her away, how I had failed as a husband. "So what do you want from therapy?" she asked. "I want to understand why she left," I said. "You already know why she left," Dr. Richardson said. "You weren't present. You weren't emotionally available. You took her for granted. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" I can't change the past, I said. No, she agreed. But you can change the future. The question is, do you want to? Over the next several months, I did the work. I examined my childhood. I looked at my relationship with my own parents, how my father was always working, how my mother always accepted it. I realized I had replicated that dynamic with Emma. I had become my father. I looked at my own insecurities. I realized that I had thrown myself into work because it made me feel valuable. It made me feel like I had worth. But I had never felt valuable in my relationships. I realized that I had been afraid. Afraid that if I slowed down, if I wasn't constantly achieving, I would lose Emma. But in trying to keep her through achievement, I had lost her anyway. Dr. Richardson helped me see something crucial. Emma didn't leave because of me specifically. She left because she had to save herself. She left because she was drowning in a marriage where she wasn't valued, and the only way to survive was to leave. So how do I forgive her? I asked. You forgive her by understanding that her leaving wasn't about rejecting you, Dr. Richardson said. It was about saving herself. And once you understand that, you can forgive her. Not for what she did to you, but for the courage it took her to do what she needed to do. That conversation changed everything. Can you forgive someone by understanding their perspective, even when it hurts? A year after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Emma at a grocery store. It was awkward at first. We hadn't seen each other since the divorce proceedings. There was tension, uncertainty, hurt hanging between us. But then she smiled, a real smile, not a polite smile, and said, "Hi. How have you been?" "I've been okay," I said. "How about you?" "Good," she said. "Really good, actually." And she meant it. I could see it in her face. She looked happy. She looked at peace. "I want to talk to you," I said. "If you have time." We went to a coffee shop nearby. We sat in a corner, similar to where we had first met all those years ago. "I owe you an apology," I said. Emma looked surprised. "For what?" she asked. "For not being present," I said. "For taking you for granted. For making you feel invisible. For not hearing you when you were telling me you were unhappy." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I've been in therapy," I continued. "And I've been doing a lot of work to understand my role in what happened to us. And I want you to know that I understand why you left. And I don't blame you. I blame myself." "I don't want you to blame yourself," Emma said. "That's not why I wanted to talk to you. I didn't leave because you were a bad person. I left because I was lost. And I needed to find myself." "Have you," I asked, "found yourself?" "Yes," she said. "I'm doing work that fulfills me. I'm spending time with people who value me. I'm living alone and I'm learning who I am as an individual, not just as someone's wife." "I'm glad," I said. And I meant it. I was genuinely glad that she had found what she needed. "I've also done a lot of work in therapy," Emma said. "And I've realized some things. I realized that I gave up parts of myself in our marriage. I realized that I was waiting for you to make me happy instead of making myself happy. And I realized that I needed to leave, not because of you, but because of me." "Can you forgive me?" I asked. Emma was quiet for a long time. "I forgave you a long time ago," she finally said. "The day I realized that you weren't the problem. My own codependency was the problem." "Can you forgive me?" "For what?" I asked. "For leaving the way I did," she said. "For not giving us a chance to fix things together. For choosing to leave instead of choosing to fight for us." "I forgave you the moment I understood that your leaving was an act of self-love," I said. "Not an act of rejection toward me." We sat in that coffee shop for 3 hours. We talked about our marriage. We talked about what went wrong. We talked about what we had learned. We talked about who we had become since the divorce. And for the first time since Emma left, I felt at peace. Is forgiveness about absolving someone of responsibility? Or is it about understanding their journey and choosing compassion? Forgiveness after someone leaves you is different from other kinds of forgiveness. It's not about them coming back or saying sorry. It's about understanding that their leaving was about their journey, not a rejection of you as a person. It's about recognizing that sometimes love isn't enough to keep two people together. And that's okay. After that coffee meeting with Emma, I continued therapy. I continued doing the work. But the work changed. It was no longer about trying to get Emma back or trying to understand why she left. It was about understanding myself. It was about becoming the kind of person who wouldn't repeat the same mistakes. I started being more present. I stopped saying yes to every work project. I started going to dinner with friends. I started dating again, not frantically, but slowly, intentionally, with awareness. I realized that I had been using work as a way to avoid intimacy. I had been using achievement as a way to prove my worth. And I had been missing out on real connection because I was so focused on external validation. I also realized something important. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself for not seeing what was happening in my marriage. I had to forgive myself for not stepping up when Emma was telling me she was unhappy. I had to forgive myself for taking her for granted. And I had to do this not to feel better about myself, but because I couldn't fully forgive Emma until I forgave myself. One day, about 2 years after we ran into each other at the grocery store, Emma called me. "I'm engaged," she said. My first instinct was pain. My second instinct was joy, real, genuine joy for her. "I'm happy for you," I said. And I meant it. "I wanted you to hear it from me," she said. "Because our journey together mattered to me. And I didn't want you to hear it from someone else." "Who is he?" I asked. "His name is David," she said. "He's a therapist. We met in a yoga class, of all places. And he's everything I was looking for." "I'm glad," I said. "You deserve to be happy, Emma." "I am happy," she said. "And I hope you're happy too." "I'm getting there," I said. "I'm learning what happiness actually is." We said goodbye. And I realized that I had truly forgiven her. Not because she had asked for forgiveness. Not because she had come back. But because I had done the work to understand that her leaving was an act of love, love for herself. And I had learned to honor that. Can you celebrate someone's happiness even when they choose a different path than the one you were on together? 3 years after Emma left. 3 years into rebuilding my life and understanding myself. I'm 38 years old now. I'm still working as an engineer, but I've restructured my career. I work 40 to 45 hours a week instead of 70. I have time for relationships. I have time for friends. I have time for myself. I'm dating someone named Sarah. We met at therapy. She was in my therapist's waiting room and we started talking. It's been 6 months and it's different from my marriage to Emma. It's healthier. I'm more present. I'm more aware of my patterns. I'm showing up emotionally. I recently saw Emma at another event. She was there with her fiancé David. We talked for a few minutes. It was warm. It was respectful. It was the conversation of two people who had shared something meaningful and had both grown because of it. "I'm glad you're happy," Emma said. "I'm glad you're happy too," I said. And I meant it. I've come to understand something important. Emma didn't leave me because I was unlovable. She left because she needed to save herself. And in leaving, she taught me something crucial. She taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to let them go. I also learned something else. I had to learn to love myself before I could truly love someone else. When I was married to Emma, I was looking to her to make me feel valuable. I was looking to my career to make me feel worthy. I was looking to external validation to fill an internal void. Now I know that my worth doesn't come from my career or my relationships. It comes from knowing who I am and showing up authentically in my life. I also learned that forgiveness isn't about absolution. It's not about saying, "What you did was okay." Forgiveness is about releasing the resentment that keeps you stuck. It's about understanding someone else's journey even when it intersects painfully with your own. I've forgiven Emma. And more importantly, I've forgiven myself. I still have the house that Emma and I bought together. I've renovated it, not to erase the memories, but to honor them. The house represents a chapter of my life. It was a beautiful chapter, even though it ended. Sometimes I look at the photos from our wedding day. I see how happy we were. And instead of feeling sad, I feel grateful. I feel grateful that I got to experience that love, even though it didn't last forever. Because love doesn't have to last forever to be real. Love doesn't have to end in forever to be meaningful. Emma and I loved each other. And then we grew into different people who wanted different things. And that's okay. The title of this series is Hearts Mended. And my heart has been mended. Not because Emma came back. Not because we got back together. But because I learned to forgive her, myself, and the circumstances that brought us together and then apart. And I learned that forgiveness is freedom. It's freedom from the resentment that keeps you stuck in the past. It's freedom to build a new future. Emma found her happiness. I'm finding mine. And we can both be happy, separately, but respectfully, with gratitude for what we shared. Can you love someone without holding on to them? Can you wish them well even when their journey takes them away from you? When your spouse leaves you, it feels like the end of the world. It feels like rejection. It feels like failure. But what if it's not? What if it's actually the beginning of both people's individual journeys of self-discovery and healing? If my story moved you, if your spouse has left you, if you're struggling to understand why they chose to leave, if you're wrestling with whether you can ever forgive them, you're not alone. Like this video. Comment below with your own story. Tell me, have you been left by someone you loved? How did you learn to forgive them? How did you move forward? Let's build a community of people who understand that sometimes the most loving thing we can do is let someone go. Subscribe to Hearts Mended so you never miss another story of redemption, forgiveness, and hope. And if you're the one who left someone you loved, know this: your leaving might have been necessary. Your leaving might have been an act of self-love. And you don't owe anyone guilt for choosing yourself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing my story. And thank you for believing that hearts can truly be mended, even when the person we loved chooses a different path. We'll see you next week with another story of hope.